Oh my God. I'm so dumb. I had already started the stream and I didn't realize I never pressed the go live button. So, anyway, hello, welcome back to Slightly Twisted Female. I am your host, Brittany Rou. We will be taking off in about 3 minutes here. Welcome back. I noticed, so this is part two, well, really part four of a 4-part stream, but part two of today's stream talking about the true transsexuals versus the transgenders and fighting and squabbling over pretty much the same thing, and neither side is making any sense. So yeah, we're gonna get right back into it. I was basically copyrighted on my last stream, and when I looked at the last time when this happened for Jubilee, in both cases it happened at exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes. So it was an hour and 16 minutes, but I'm sure it was like an hour and 15 minutes when the strike went up. So I think it actually might be like a time-based thing. So hopefully we can get a little bit more time in. So buckle up, Buttercup, and let's get right back into the stream. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Right. And then also, if we want to just get super real, you have the trans.
So to be clear, the topic right now is, so again, this is conservative trans versus liberal trans. Like... No, there's really not such thing as a conservative trans person, let's be clear. So it's really like classical liberal, whatever. It's like, it's so dumb. But yeah, and so the question right now is whether or not you support the transgender military ban, which was enacted by President Trump and then repealed by Biden, which, spoiler alert, I clearly agree with. And actually Blaire White makes some good points here. See, and that's the problem with men like Blaire White. It's like whenever it's stuff that doesn't affect him, like he doesn't want to go to the military, you know what I mean? Like and somebody said it in the last stream, and it's so true. For somebody who claims to be like this big patriot, and that's his whole shtick, and he's wearing these like American flag bikinis and, showing off his like AR-15 assault style rifle that's like in bright pink and all this sort of stuff. And he's like pandering to like the libertarians, and yet he's, was like, oh, I would never want to serve in the military. It's like, yeah, okay, exactly. You know what I mean? It's all so fake. It's all such a shtick. But he does make a couple good points here. And the problem with men like him is like they will make some good points. They're strategic about it. They know they've got to give a little to get a little. Whereas like the queer theory guys go so far out into left field and they don't know how to strategize like which battles to pick. They'll try to fight all the battles and it makes them sound crazy. But then, Blaire will come up. He's like, well, I don't care about the military. And he'll make a couple based points. And everyone's like, whoa, yeah, he's a gender critical trans. He's a real gender critical trans guy. Bro, there's no such thing as a gender critical trans. I'll say it again. There is no such thing as a gender critical trans person. It is inherently an oxymoron. And all of your so-called gender critical trans faves are all hypocrites, and they talk out of both sides of their mouths routinely, and they make no coherent logical sense or have no consistency in their logic. Let's get back into it. Dun, 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 dun. Blaire White, if you would like to debate, I'm down. I know you'll never do it. You'll just keep reporting my streams. But Blaire, there's nothing to fear. I am just some older, aging, middle-aged, mother Thor, some lame-o, right? I'm like supposed to be like a weak, easy opponent. I'm not one of these like cool, based, conservative, whatever. So like, what's the problem? What's the problem? Just some like stay-at-home mom. Like, what's the problem? If you want to debate, let's debate. But I won't hold my breath.
Suicide rate, and if you really want to compound that by the veteran suicide rate, that's not exactly a
service with community.
Let's see.
It's like, oh no, discrimination.
Oh wait, this is the one good point
About the concern and safety of trans people.
And I do agree that something does need to be done about that to protect, keep trans people. I think it's very discriminatory to keep trans people out of the military. We pay our bills here, we pay our taxes here, we are Americans, we deserve to serve this country as well. However, you all did raise some great points about the concern and safety of trans people. And I do agree that something does need to be done about that to protect us.
Okay, so this Blossom guy makes it clear over and over that his only concern is with the wants of trans people. And this is why, and please be clear, these are not, please stop using the term TRA, okay? TRA stands for Trans Rights Activists. They are not advocating for trans rights. They are advocating for trans privileges. As such, I advocate that we change the acronym to be TPA, Trans Privilege Activists. What these people are asking for are additional privileges only for trans identifying people, mostly trans identifying males, let's be real. So it's on the one hand, you have this sort of transgenders who advocate, they don't know how to pick their battles, and they're advocating for, everything for trans people. And it's they're so willing to spiral off. What makes these trans conservatives different is that they're willing to sort of strategize, right? It's people like Sarah Hidgen and Blaire White and Buck Angel realized that the pushback from the gender critical, backswing comes from the medicalization of children, one, and the infiltration and erosion of women's rights, right? So now they're kind of realizing, well, we got to sort of tailor our narrative to pretend like we care about those things and to pretend like we're considering those things so that people will kind of fall back a little bit and we can go back to doing what we want without any interference, okay? They're more sophisticated. You get these Blossom, these, far leftist, kind of queer theory guys, and it's they're so they don't know how to sort of measure and balance and strategize. They're just fighting everything and pro-trans, waving the pro-trans flag. And it's these other guys like Sarah Hidgen and Blaire White are recognizing that that is putting us drawing way too much attention to us, drawing way too much attention to people who want to live as trans and be able to have all these privileges and things. And it's we have to sit there and pretend like we're against these things so that we won't keep getting pushback. It's all that it is. It's strategy. They all equally only care about, their own sort of narcissistic right to do what they want when they want. They just, the so-called trans conservatives have a more sophisticated way at going about it.
In the military. Who is?
I mean, if you're even diagnosed with mild social anxiety, you're not eligible to enter the military. If you have a crooked left, pinky toe, you're not eligible. So discriminatory, I mean, that word sounds pretty in today's climate, very much oh no, discrimination, but it's not always bad. Sometimes it's for the safety, and it's when it comes to the military and when it comes to keeping America safe, that has priority over anyone's feelings.
Discrimination is discrimination, and I don't think there's
not always a negative thing, though.
It's still discrimination.
That doesn't mean it's negative, though.
Okay, so here's where I will give a point to Blaire. And again, it's the point is that he does sometimes make good points, and he doesn't care about the military, right? It's funny because I had actually thought that I was talking to you guys. I was like, why is nobody in the comments section? Because I hadn't pressed play. But what I was saying before, he is right. Discrimination is a good thing sometimes, right? This idea that discrimination is across the board negative. No, boundaries are inherently discriminatory, right? When you have a boundary up saying some people can be on this side of the boundary, some people may not cross that threshold and have to stay on that side of the boundary. And it's on the one hand, we talk about how, boundaries are so important during the Me Too movement and, women being able to assert their boundaries and set boundaries, and boundaries are so important for people and mental health. Yet on the other side, we sit there and talk about how discrimination is the worst possible thing, and we want inclusivity at all costs and inclusion. And to be clear, inclusion at all costs usually turns into exclusion for women, right? Because we are not all equal, right? We are not all equal. So when you have this across the board blanketed inclusion, it doesn't take into account our natural differences and that cause into a sort of power differential. I tell my children, especially my son who is in middle school, and I've told him, and I said, listen to me. I expect you to be discriminatory. I literally had this whole conversation with him. I said, I'm sure that you get a lot of people telling you about, like, don't discriminate and be inclusive and include everybody. And I said, I do not want you to listen to that. I want you to discriminate, but I want to be clear about upon which axes I want you to discriminate. I said, if there are, especially as you're getting older now and you're middle school and kids are becoming more independent, I said, if you see other kids who seem like they don't care about school, they don't respect other adults, they don't respect other children, they don't seem to hold themselves in a respectable manner, they don't know how to conduct themselves, if they're messing around in class, they are getting poor grades, they're having disciplinary issues, they don't seem like they're taking care of their personal hygiene, really basic things like that, you need to keep those people out of your friend group, okay? You don't have to tell other people who to hang out with, but you need to gatekeep your life. You need to keep high quality friends around you, because as you get older and as you're spending more time outside of the house and you're being influenced by, different kinds of, more by your friend group and things like that, you need to have layers of high quality friends that share in your values, that share in your goals, and that will help you, and that will be a good support system and a good influence on you as you, continue to develop yourself as a young adult and as a young man. Okay. I expect you to set very good boundaries about who you will allow to be around you. You don't need to, it is not your job to figure out why somebody is depressed. Unless it's like a good friend of yours and you know that they're going through a tough time, like their parents went through a divorce and they're just not themselves. And that's a time to rally around. But it is not your job to go pick out the kid who's continuously problematic and who's continuously just seems like he's got a lot of issues. That's for the adults in his life to figure out. And if you can extend yourself and be like a nice person and lend a hand and do something nice for that person, that's wonderful. But it's not the same as like letting them into your world in a sort of way where whatever sort of baggage that they come with or mental illness can influence you. And especially if that kid is consistently showing problematic. So I always told my kids that being discriminatory is actually a really important thing, right? But it's not about these like superficial, like my family is so like multicultural and stuff, and it's not about race. It's not about, who's attractive or not. It's about kids who share the same values as you. Okay, surround yourself with kids who are motivated, who have things, going on in their lives, who care about their families, care about their communities, who are doing positive things. Okay, that's important. So Blaire is correct in this instance where discrimination is absolutely not always a bad thing. And in fact, it's a very important thing. It's important that we're able to see that, hey, this person is showing really antisocial behaviors. It's important as a parent, as a mother, you absolutely must discriminate. If you're in a space and you see some shady person come in, you don't have time to sit there and be like, oh no, he's probably just different. Let's give everyone a chance. No. To the young mothers out there, do not make excuses or apologies for why you'll take one look at somebody and be like, nope. You don't need to know why they dressed like a weirdo. You don't need to know why they're doing weird things. You might be wrong. Maybe they're a real nice guy and they've just got some real quirks. That is not for you to sit there and figure out. You take that internal alarm that says, there's something creepy with this guy or the guy who's coming up and chit-chatting with you and something just feels off. You do not need to continue to smile and play along. You can literally just be like, no, just grab your kids and just leave for whatever reason. You don't need to explain why. You don't need to say sorry. You don't need to talk yourself out of it. You don't need to try to justify why you're overreacting. Just be like, I'm not really sure why I feel weird about this. I just do. And I'm going to react to that. And I'm just going to respond to it. I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. What's more important to me is the safety of my children and myself. Yeah, like don't let they've done such a campaign to teach us to sort of get mad at ourselves for having these initial prejudices. Prejudices are also important. When you are walking down a street and you see, it's like, okay, in Philadelphia, one of the worst things that ever came out of COVID is the fact that all these young dudes are still masking up. They call them poo shiesty. It's a ski mask where all you see is this. They all wear the same exact uniform. It's like long sleeve, black t-shirts with black jeans, skinny jeans, black shoes, and a fucking poo shiesty mask where you can barely see their eyes. They all look exactly the same. You can't tell who's who. If I see a group of young men wearing ski masks walk towards me in the summertime and I'm on the street with my children or I'm alone, you better fucking believe I'm crossing the street or I'm ducking into a shop. I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, let's just give him a chance, or oh, I don't want to see like I'm being racist because maybe it's a group of young black men. No, I don't care what your race is. A group of men. Now it might be different if I see like a man walking down and he's carrying like a briefcase and a suit and tie and he's on like a phone. Not saying that he might not also be dangerous, but I'm sorry, but ski masks is going to be something that's going to tip me off, right? It doesn't matter. It's not about race. It's not about it is about sex, because honestly, if I see a group of women coming down, I might be like, if it's like a whole group of like young teenage girls and they're being rowdy. But if I see a group of guys walking down, you better believe I'm crossing the street. I don't care. They could be the nicest guys in the world. It is not my problem.
Are troops over there while they're over there? You're trying to, or protect them before so they can get in?
It is important to protect all trans people in the military.
Well, we can't waste
And so what if the best
resources
way to protect them is
them.
not putting them in the Middle East with Muslims that are going to kill them?
Well, I just want to interject your point about suicide. So as somebody who has worked in community service with community members directly, a lot of their suicide issues actually revolve around access to finances. And the military is one of the highest employers of transgender people. So we actually see the suicide rate drop. And for me personally...
but it's one of the highest employers of anybody.
But if you're suicidal and you go in...
So Red called me a you wide-backed whale. It is so hilarious when you like trans supporters come in and you try to come after my looks. First of all, sir, that's a losing strategy. I can assure you that my looks have never been a problem in my life, and getting men has never been a problem. And my weight has never been a problem. So again, is the problem that you just don't have any counter arguments to deal with the truth that I'm dropping on your head? Because if we said anything like that about your fave trans YouTuber, well, you'd all be crying your eyes out. That's a losing strategy, sir. How about you refute some of my points? Or, you insult me in a way that makes sense. But that's not it, my love. Try again.
Went to a job that has a higher likelihood of PTSD, causing PTSD and all these other issues, then it becomes a big issue, because then you already have one mental illness, and then you're compounding it with more.
And when you're on, a very strict regimen of, if you're trans and if you're really trans, and we can get into who's really trans later, because I have a lot to say about that, but if you're going to be on hormones, right, you're not always going to have access to those drugs when you're deployed and when you're in those situations. That's why I say, if you're, a line cook or something, if you're whatever, that's one thing. But if we're talking about combat, you're not exactly going to have access to your testosterone blocker.
All right, I don't care about this.
I am right now.
Okay, this is one that...
services in terms of nonprofits and actually get...
This is where they all start going after Blaire. And it was stupid. It's like they were all just waiting for their chance to, like, come for him. And it's all, like, so, like, cringe.
That I've paid respect to you publicly on social media, and I think it's...
don't have access to a job that could offer them support.
drugs when you're deployed and when you're in those situations. That's why I say if you're, a line cook or something, if you're whatever, that's one thing. But if we're talking about combat, you're not exactly going to have access to your testosterone blockers and your
How do you know that? Because medical
they
care
don't have
is
those kind of
covered
pharmacies in the Middle East.
Medical care is covered in the military, so they should have access to that. So that is false information.
And also, you guys are forgetting the fact. Well,
but-
hold on. You guys have all forgotten the fact of what is the flip side for these transgender individuals that are signing up for the military and they're taken out, and that was their life plan. Where are they supposed to work, and where is their employment supposed to be?
No,
Because
I
the
agree,
mental
but-
illness that happens
I agree, it's
through
horrible.
homelessness and the lack of resources
agree,
that
it's
come.
horrible.
So that is also
They
the
actually-
flip side of that. So if folks
But they
don't
didn't
have,
kick
hold
anybody
on
out.
one second, but if they don't have access to a job that could offer them
Make your
support and research and access to medication, access to benefits.
I don't know why early on I used to think that like Blair was really smart. I remember like I didn't agree with him with the true trans stuff, but I just remember thinking like no, like he's really smart. I like can't see it anymore. He's like petty, catty. His arguments are so half baked and like my eardrum. It's like, what is with the constant posturing? That must be exhausting. Does he ever just like, just relax and be himself ever? Constantly posturing. It's like the constant, like the hair flicking and like, do they think that that's what we do? Do they just like study the card? It's like, I'm just so like, I just think that if, we just, and it's just like, like the, it's like, don't you ever kind of just want to relax? Especially in these sort of environments where you need to be thinking. And that's why I just feel like it's like he's got to be holding himself back so much because you have such a large part of your brain that's constantly focused on like your behaviors and your mannerisms and am I being feminine enough and how do I look and I wonder if I look good on the camera. You're not able to really focus on what's being said. And you're not able to really like come up with these really good rebuttals and stuff, and I'm sorry, but he did at least 3 live streams where it's just basically like him like crying about how they were mean to him and then him giving these like really like just like low brow like cheap shot comebacks and I'm like this is where we're at with it and it's
lifetime benefits. That's something that most transgender people in any sector of any job.
So do you want an answer to your question or are you just going to rant? Because I can answer, you said what about those people that were kicked out? I actually think it's bad if you are someone who was in it and you really are, because just like, Sarah, and I've met many trans veterans that I've paid respect to publicly on social media and I think it's amazing actually. So if you're kicked out and it was once, the norm that you could,
resources you're
I'm
offering
speaking
them?
though, if you're kicked out and it once was the norm for you to participate in the military, that's sad, but at the same time, if that is what is determined for the ultimate safety and effectiveness of the military, nothing should come before that.
I'm sorry, if you compare the Chinese military to the American military, and this is why I think that TikTok is 100% soft warfare against Americans. If you're a parent of like school-aged children and they're on TikTok, I implore you, mother to mother, parent to parent, get your children off TikTok. It could probably be the best thing that you'll ever do. The most important thing that you'll ever do. Get your kids off these social media platforms. Get them off Instagram. Get them off YouTube. Get them off TikTok. TikTok is owned by the communists, the People's Party of China. Okay? I absolutely believe that it is a soft warfare tactic. They understand how, if China didn't understand how important culture was, they wouldn't be as culturally strict as they are. They understand how critical culture is. If you look at the Chinese version of the app, it highlights and promotes in their algorithm things like scientific achievement and musical excellence amongst young people and, kids who are accomplishing amazing feats in these classical sports and things like that and whatever they could, ballet and gymnastics and excellence. Now when you look at the American version of the app, it's all sexual degeneracy, it's all about kinks, it's people with these septum piercings and who are mutilating their bodies. It's all about talking about like effeminate men and gay men and bisexual men and men who want to have sex with anything they can get their hands on, women who are who just are also so porn sick that they are not, they're just, the behavior is so bizarre. They're talking to children. If you would not leave your child in a room alone with any of these people, then you should not be letting them alone on TikTok. Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're basically saying all of these degenerates here. And do you know I cannot keep a TikTok account to save my life? Even the most moderately gender critical viewpoints all get blocked and taken down immediately. They have a very strict algorithm, one of the strictest algorithms. I say that to say, if you look at the Chinese military, they are striving towards excellence. You look at the American military, we're doing pride parades. Pride parades. You know how embarrassing that is? These pride events where we're sitting there, we're all celebrating the fact that, you know, some men like to get bent over by other men, right? That's the most important thing in the world. Or that, you know, some women like to shoot testosterone and impersonate, you know, being a man. Like, or, you know, or that, like, you know, women are only sleeping with other women. That's the most important thing. This idea that, like, who we have sex with is so important that we need to talk about it nonstop and make it the centerpiece of our personality. You know, I'm sorry, but bring back don't ask, don't tell. I don't believe that somebody should be thrown out because of their sexuality, but I think it absolutely has no business anywhere within the military to discuss those things. I feel like unless you're like married to a man or married to a woman and you want to talk about, like, you know, your whatever, your like family and stuff like that, but we I'm sorry, it's just too much. There's just too much. There's too much at stake. You need to be able to trust the people around you. Also, all the, like, you know, sexual abuse against women in the military is horrific. Let's start there. Why don't we deal with how women are treated in the military first? And I also think, honestly, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I have a girlfriend of mine who came to, oh my God, I love her, who I grew up with her pretty much. And she came to one of our Let Women Speak. She's like one of my childhood friends who like really follows my work. And I love her. And she came and like protested with us, and she was in the military, and she's like some like high ranking, she works like a very masculine job. She's like the only woman in the country who has the job that she has. And she's like gotten all these awards and stuff, you know, for like her like work. I would love to, I got to get her on the channel. Because she's totally like on board with us and stuff like that, and is always like kind of in the background like cheering me on, and I love her, and I would love to like hear more from her about like the military and the policies and being a woman and all this sort of stuff.
Blaire, have you ever worked directly with trans people? Have you ever worked directly?
I am right now.
No,
We're
directly
surrounded by
in
them.
services in terms of nonprofits
Sir,
and actually
she's a
getting
trans
clientele.
person.
She's not
That's my
grassroots.
entire
She
career.
is not a grassroots
Not
person
grassroots.
because, truth be told, a lot of our
What does that
community
even mean?
isn't grassroots.
Have you ever had a
Nonprofit
client list
organization-
Okay, to be clear, the whole it's not a grassroots movement. Okay, the transgenderism movement is not a grassroots movement. Where are you guys getting your funding? It makes everybody think that it's coming from the ground up, but it's coming from these billionaires, coming from people like Jennifer Pritzker. Okay, it's coming from like the Rothblatts. It's coming from the federal government because of all these politicians who realize that there's so much to gain. It's coming from the American Medical Association and these medical lobbies who realize that there's so much money to be gained from pushing a pro-trans narrative. And then they create these little like, you know, organizations, and then they put these people who are directly out of academia, fresh out of the university system, and have them running it, and they're giving them money. That's not a ground up thing. That's a top bottom. The only people who are being installed to run these organizations, these nonprofits, are people who are directly out of the indoctrination camps of the university system. And they're getting money from who? Yeah, the pro-trans lobby, which is a rat king of powerful people. So yeah, no, you're not grassroots, Blossom.
Transgender people that you actually took care of.
Hold on just a second.
Took care of them, like what, like paid their bills? No, I don't
Offering them services, getting them through
I've helped a
services.
lot of trans people in my life,
Trans-led
yes.
organizations that are ran by trans people. I really want to see what you've done for those organizations, because I don't see any of y'all on the front line.
I'm on
The front line,
fighting
like what are you
against the-
talking about?
I'm
I've
on the front
dedicated,
line.
hold on. I've dedicated my entire life to, in my own way, and you can disagree with it because we all have our vehicles and our methods towards
Absolutely.
promoting.
Yeah, so Night Watch says, no offense, women and men are different, and female soldiers are significantly weaker. You know, that's why I wanted, because like I was about to make a a point about I just don't think that women belong in every branch of the military. And I was like, before I say that, let me talk to my friend. But I think she actually probably agrees with some of the stuff, even though she was like, I just think I think it's dangerous for women. I think that when men are under a lot of stress like that, when they're being traumatized, and they've been away for like months and months and months, and they're off the grid, and then they're like kind of like in these quarters and there's women in there, I just think it's a recipe for disaster. I think it's a recipe for women getting hurt. And I think that like we should not, we don't need to weaken ourselves just so that we can be diverse. Like, let's just have the best military that we can have and create the parameters that make us the strongest, regardless of who that leaves out. But the thing is, it's like the military is such a multidimensional thing. It's like we don't only have infantry, right? I think women can absolutely serve in a lot of branches of the military that don't require them, like, no offense, but like messing up the normal operations. Like, where it's like women can be whatever, like nurses and things like that. And I'm sorry, but it's like we do have to acknowledge where there's like differences in men and women. And it's like sometimes when the stakes are so high, the most important thing is about just like doing the best job possible. But I want to talk to my friend about that before I like develop like an opinion, because I don't really know enough.
Trans acceptance and the ultimate progression of the quality of life of trans people.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Boo says I think men should be the ones going to war. I happily say, yeah, bro, hello, me too. And that's why like Blaire White wants to like continue to like pretend to be a woman, because it's like, yeah, no, exactly. It's like, I'm sorry, but like, no, women are too precious. Why do you think it's always been women and children first? Like, we're precious. We have our, we are our own natural resource. And we are the gatekeepers and caretakers of our nation's children, really. And it's not equal because they come from our bodies. They've, their cellular existence has been with us since we were fetuses. So, I mean, we are so connected with our children in a way that men just simply aren't. And babies look for us, for the first 6 years. We're so critical to their survival. So it's like, I don't know, like I don't know. It's like, let's just get the job done and like,
Dedicated my entire life to that, right? I access.
Yeah, Kai Decadent says like data intel. Yeah, like women can do like, like medical jobs and do like, like data stuff and, investigation and, other sorts of like operations, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Again, if we're going to acknowledge that there are some things that are like, that are just for women, if we're going to acknowledge that men are the most violent people on earth, well, let's put that to use. That's what they're for. If men are super aggressive and they're some of the most violent, they're like the apex predator of the world. Well, let's harness that. Okay, there's a reason why we don't have widespread incidences of women committing mass violence. We're just different. Let's harness, like the same reason why I don't think we need men as like, babysitters and stuff. That's why we're not high. It's okay to acknowledge that we have different strengths and things like that. That women are better for certain things. Women should be taking care of other women and very young children. We should be gatekeeping men out of access to young children for the most part. Not saying that, well, women can be problematic too, but whatever the case may be, we can acknowledge that men and women are different. They are different. And let's harness like the strengths and skill sets of both.
It's millions of people every single month on all my social media. And I have people reaching out all the time saying that I've saved them from, just like we mentioned, suicide.
What are you physically
doing? That is the point.
Have you ever taken on a client loan? Have you ever had someone come to you homeless and give them resources?
I'm sure you guys feel very... You guys are asking questions and you have no interest in the answer. I'm sure you guys are very, very proud of the fact that you can walk...
circles, Blaire. That's what we're saying.
How could it be a circle when I haven't answered the question at all because you keep speaking? I'm sure you guys are very proud that you can enter a building and work with 25 people at a time. I access millions every month. That's what I do.
It's really disappointing that you would ever equate.
This is disappointing. This is disappointing, actually.
It's disappointing that you would disrespect all of the people that are in community service and all of these social.
The reason why these like trans groups, if you anybody who hasn't already watched my conversation with Richard Anamene, he was a detransitioner who had the vaginoplasty, where his penis was inverted, and it's really sad story. And he's schizophrenic. He has like, I think, a propensity to schizophrenia, or is on the schizophrenic spectrum, because again, schizophrenia is a little bit like autism, where it's actually a spectrum disorder. And they said that they got to him when he was homeless. So he was homeless. His dad was extremely abusive to him and his siblings. His parents were immigrants from Africa, so he didn't have really a network, and he was living in California, which the cost of living is insane. So he was homeless as a young adult for a while. And he said he had gotten linked up. He was like recommended to this like nonprofit organization that helps with homeless adults. Comes to find out, they're like, yeah, we'll give you home. They said they hooked him up with an apartment. They got him all these resources, and then they started pushing him towards like the trans thing and saying, well, maybe you're trans. There's a reason why they like going after very mentally ill people who are desperate for community, people who have been rejected by their families, and people all think that it's the transness that creates the social rejection, but it's actually in many ways the other way around. It's socially rejected people that leads to the transness. They just love bomb me. They gave me the sense of community. I felt loved and cared about. I felt like I was somebody all of a sudden. And of course, that's who they go after. And then they got him hooked up on like Medi-Cal, and then they just started charging the shit out of Medi-Cal and doing all these procedures on him. It's like the easiest way to get your hands on very vulnerable people who are in such desperate need of community and resources and love that they're very easy to manipulate. You get all these like social workers who help get them onto these social services like Medicaid and Medi-Cal. And, and then they're like, okay, great. Now we can go, then they started like sending him to a therapist. And he said the therapist was very oriented towards like pushing him towards like a gender identity and then transition and all this sort of stuff. And before he knew it, he was getting like breast implant, or I guess he never got breast implants, but he got his, penis inverted and all this other stuff. He got facial feminization surgery. I mean, facial feminization surgery is like $100,000 procedure. Plus, so they've made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this previously homeless young adult. I wonder why they're so big in this sort of like nonprofit grassroots thing. It's like, you think?
Social workers that actually do help trans people.
And it's really disappointing that you guys are disrespecting what the fuck I do. Right?
Well, yeah, Kai Decadence says, yeah, it doesn't, Kai Decadence says, yeah, it doesn't mean that women are less than, we just have different strengths and weaknesses. Now, exactly. We cannot sit there and talk about how men are an inherent danger to women and children, but then pretend like we're all equal when it comes to like, well, we want to get these jobs or whatever. Like, no, I'm sorry. Part of like acknowledging that we need different accommodations because we're literally two different phenotypes within the same species. Yeah, we're the same species. We have literally two different body plans that have very different strengths and weaknesses. One thing that women have on men is women have a much higher pain tolerance. Why? So that we can give birth. We're not meant to give birth through a bunch of like pain medication. We have high pain tolerance. They have high like brute strength. Women are built for endurance. There's a reason why we live longer. We're built to endure, pain. We can endure, kind of these like drawn out hardships and things and keep going. Whereas men are like in short spurts of like strength and ability and things like that. But they end up like not living as long. Testosterone's very hard on your health. It's very hard on your body, right? And it's like, again, yeah. And it's a reason why it's like, the more that we celebrate our differences as men and women, and we can like, rather than like, I don't know, like women and men like wanting to be the other thing and being told that, oh, we're all equal and we're all the same, to the point where we actually want to become interchangeable. And then you live this life of chasing a dragon that you're never going to catch. Figure out about what is so wonderful about being a woman. What within that can I find my own sense of strength and identity? Where can I begin to find who I am and what makes me remarkable, and start working towards my highest self within, you know, my God-given talents and abilities and you know, aptitude. And same thing as men. You know, and again, it is not saying that you need to look at the most manly man in the world and be like, oh, I have to be like that. No, you know, even so-called effeminate men, they're still men, and they still have gifts from being male, you know, that are unique to being male. You know, find yourself within that, cultivate within that. And I feel like that to me is the greatest path to happiness and self-acceptance, you know, rather than being like, no, you're really some other thing, and we're going to do whatever we can to try to make you that thing, even though we're never going to catch it. And it'll just be this endless cycle of, like, you know, boom and bust, and, you know, euphoria, and then, you know, depression, because it's like, yeah, the placebo effect wears off and you realize that you're not really there, and then there's more things to do, and it cycles on forever until you can't take it anymore.
Right? When you say something about what is grassroots, that's the problem that I feel that some trans
using a
influencers are
metaphor for
disconnected.
something that's
That is not a
professional.
They're gonna
metaphor.
speak
That
in
is
platitudes
that
the
is
whole
a
time. That's
tangible
what they're gonna do.
resource organization. Because this is where y'all's privilege come in. Because if y'all don't need
My privilege?
services,
My
from
content is a
trans-
resource.
If you do not need
First
services
of all, ma'am,
from
don't come from my
nonprofits
privilege.
that are trans-led,
Because
you have
I was raised by
privilege
drug
and you
addicts.
have
I had
access.
HIV.
I create the resources.
I would rather
I create the resources.
You know, this poor little, like, Twinkie girl who, like, wants to be a gay man, like, no one's paying, everyone's, like, steamrolling her. It's like, it's all like the man. And then later, like, Blair later goes on to say how he felt like he had a responsibility to protect, like, the little, like, Bill Gates lady, you know, like, because he's like, yeah, you know, I just know, even though, you know, he's a man and I'm a woman, I still felt like, you know, it was still my job to protect him in case like Blossom, like, went nuts and, like, decided to, like, rage out against all of them. And I was like, bro, still a woman, still a little teeny weeny woman.
Resources. My content is
Oh,
a
I
resource.
see. So we're gonna work with detransitioners who actually need our help.
But we're not talking about military.
Oh my God.
Another one, but I'm gonna give you one more chance.
It's the condescension for me, you know.
I will take a step back and let other people have an
I feel
opinion.
like so, like Blair said, like, when you want to go into the military, like, they gotta, like, check you out and, like, are you fit to go into the military, whatever. For that reason, I don't feel like a ban on trans people in the military is necessary, because I feel like who's ready to go to combat and who's ready to go in, like, they'll get in. I think there are people who are, like, able to do that, maybe people who aren't, and I feel like that will be determined without just a ban across the board. And yeah,
So it wasn't actually a full ban, though. That's what people don't realize. Okay, so
You can still enlist.
Nobody got kicked out of the military. They didn't kick
Yeah.
a single person out of the military who came forward and had gender dysphoria. Two, it was actually easy. It's more open to serve under the ban than it was under Don't Ask, Don't
All
Tell.
right, I like don't care about this. Hold on. Let's just. I don't care.
Those things, then why is it that we should have, like, a go around because we're trans? I go with what the generals say. I go with what the people at the top say. This is what is the most effective way to have our military.
Just not General Milley.
I just really
Just
hope
not
that the
General
people
Milley.
at the
No,
top
not
that you're-
him. You know what I mean?
just
It
really
levels
hope
to
the
that,
people-
too.
I just really hope that the people at the top that you're referring to aren't transphobic, because let's be clear of the isms that are in the
God.
military.
Man, we
that
live
a
in
lot of us
America.
face.
People are allowed
Excuse me,
to
I'm
be.
speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've
Let's be
interrupted
very
me
clear
hella
when it comes
times.
to
You know, it's funny. I was talking to this D-trans. Well, I like to say, I don't think there's any. I think D-trans is also a misnomer, because no one can transition, so therefore no one can detransition. You never transition away from being a woman. I think de-cis is the only accurate term, regardless of whether you've medicalized or not. You could say a demedicalized de-sister. I think it's demedicalized de-sister or de-sister, right? Or a social de-sister. So it's whatever. And there's really even no way to demedicalize. So it's just desist, because it's the opposite of persist. Persist is to continue in something. So to continue in a delusion versus desisting in a delusion. And it's so funny. So I was talking to a desisted female who was like, yeah, when I realized how, like, ridiculous all of this was when these trans identified males would accuse me of having male privilege and telling me that I was a misogynist and to stop mansplaining to them. And they were like, this is ridiculous. And that's exactly what this guy has, you know, been emboldened to do. It's like this 6'5" football player with breast implants in a dress is sitting there putting, you know, his face in this little 110-pound waif who looks like Bill Gates and being like, yeah, do not, don't talk over a black trans woman when she's speaking. You know, don't mansplain to me. Bro, what? It's so dumb. And I'm sorry, everybody who got so upset over Blossom saying this, I just think it was a way to like ignore how ridiculous they all sound. Like, yeah, it was cringe that he said that, but it's so par for the course with a lot of this like anti-white narrative within like, you know, these woke people and whatever, and like, do not talk over. How about you're a whole ass man who has been steamrolling the conversation the entire time? Bill Gates finally got like a little pipsqueak of a word in, and you do not talk to blah 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 blah. And he's like, whoa, you know what I mean? He's like, you know, and like, oh, hello. It's still kind of like the same, you know, balance of male and female. It's like so ridiculous.
When it comes to isms,
did the interrupter just say
if you
use
are
your
black,
skin tone
if
to
you
say
are
you couldn't
black,
interrupt her?
if you are black and
That's
trans
amazing.
and you want to go into the military, I am quite sure that my experience would not look the same as y'all's. And if we can't wake that up, then we're really being complicit.
They don't look at your race.
I don't think your skin tone makes any difference.
Well,
As somebody,
yes, it does.
no,
But
as
it
somebody,
doesn't.
no, as somebody who's
But it
served in the
doesn't.
military,
For you to
as
tell a
somebody
black
who-
person that is so
as somebody who's served in,
problematic. For you to
So why
tell
do
a
you have
person
to
of
put
color
black in
here,
front of it?
because I am. This is my experience and this is my reality. First of all,
It has nothing
that
to
is
do
so
with your
disrespectful.
This is exactly though what happened with the lesbian debate. No, listen, and to be fair, you know, like my boyfriend's like dark skinned, black. He's got like dreads. You know, I've mixed kids and all that sort of stuff. You know, I've like my ex-mother-in-law is from Africa, all this sort of stuff. So it's like there is actually certain layers of like the black experience that like white people don't really understand unless like you really like are, you know, well integrated. The whole idea that white people can never understand anything about the black experience is dumb and not really accurate. But it's like, you know, or that like, you know, racism doesn't also impact us when we're literally living with black people and like that intertwined with black people. But it's like that what's her name also did that, but the idea that it's like, you know, white experiences do not have their own like this like inherent privilege is stupid. And the same thing happened in the Ariel Scarcella Jubilee like lesbian debate with, I guess, her ex-friend try to be like, oh, you know, as a person of color, you just don't understand and da 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 da. It's like, all right, bro, like, you know, it's like, it's just, yeah, like, it would be one thing if it was like relevant to what was discussing, but like you being black has like really no relevance to like this particular topic. Not to say that like the black experience is its own thing, but that's also to say that like the black experience is some ubiquitous thing that only black people experience, you know, and it's, or I mean, sorry, it's some ubiquitous thing that all black people experience being black in the same way, and that's not accurate. But like, yeah, like I do think that, you know, in certain contexts, you know, the black experience is something that is unique and has unique considerations, but like not in this context doesn't make any sense. But I also thought it was dumb how like every YouTube channel was like, whoa, they're like woke trans activist Blossom, you know, says do not interrupt a black woman, trans woman when she's speaking. They're like, everyone's like, oh, what the hell? Like, it's like, oh, right. Like, yeah, it was cringe, but like, shut up. So was like the vast majority of this conversation from both sides, but it was just kind of like this so like, you know, conservative trans to act like, whoa, look, they're so unreasonable. And it's like, yeah, but so are you guys. You're all cringe. That's the thing. You're all cringe. This is like one of the most cringe conversations I've ever listened to in my life. So it's like, you know, like honestly, like Blossom is really not all that more cringe than all of you. Blossom passes pretty much just as well as Blaire does, which is not really at all. You know what I mean? Like all of you are cringe. You're all cringe. That's the thing. Like none of you are based. None of you are. It was like when what's her name? The one desisted female from the Phil Illy that I did a bunch of live stream or 2 live streams on. Was she like, yeah, like am I still based? And I was like, no, you're not based. You were never based, my love. Never ever based. So that's a hard no. Like, nope.
Respectful to tell a person
I'm gonna
of
have an
color,
aneurysm.
a black person, how they should feel. How dare you sit up here
Okay,
and
well,
say
no,
that?
it's disrespectful for you to tell a white
Hold on,
person
just
You
a second.
screamed
Let
at
me
me,
finish my point.
and you
I
just
did not
screamed.
scream
Yes,
at a
you
point.
did.
No,
you're
you
being
wanted me to come and
disrespectful.
back.
Rewind the tape,
You
you
wanted me
screamed.
here, and I'm
You
here.
screamed.
So what you
Rewind
gonna
the
do?
tape, that was good.
You wanted me here, so I'm
Replay.
here. You in
Right,
particular.
so we
want you to calm down.
It would have been nice to have like a black, like so-called conservative trans, you know, because I mean, it is all white people, and in all fairness, it is all white people and one black person. Not saying that we need to have more black representation, but like, why is it only black representation? Like, what about like some like an Asian, you know, like a China? Not even all Asians are the same. Like an East Asian versus like, you know, a Southeast Asian, or you know, like a Indian, or like, aren't there like other races other than white and black? Or are we just gonna pretend like that's not a thing?
Yeah, speak on
No,
your
it's not
person.
my-
What are
it's
you
not my
talking
fault.
about?
It's not my fault that y'all don't understand respect.
Susie has like, Susie Glucksman has like some of my favorite comments. Susie says homosexual transsexuals love to flap their hands around. It's so true.
Oh my God.
Can you please stop? Okay. We're good.
You need to calm down.
No, you do, honey.
Oh my God. Someone get a Xanax for her.
Keep it cute, girl. Keep it real cute.
I'm sorry. So Blair goes on to do like 5 different live streams about this exact moment where Blossom goes, "Oh, girl, keep it cute, keep it real cute." Because I guess like he was like, "Oh, because the what is it, the security guard is outside." Basically, Blair's like, I'm sorry, but Blair is so the type of person to throw rocks then hide their hands. That was a rude ass comment. If you made that comment to me, Blair, if you were like, "Oh, somebody needs a Xanax because I feel impassioned about what I'm talking about," like I would check the fucking shit out of you too. I would check the dog shit out of you. Fuck you talking about. I get so tired. Like Blair's like always making these little like quips and like these little like cheap shots and saying these little like, you know, little like burns and stuff and trying to be funny and being like mad disrespectful, but it's like somebody fucking finally checks him, he can't take it. It seems to be a pattern, Blair.
Oh, that's inappropriate, but the rest of shit isn't. Okay.
Hey, hold on, just
You
a second.
screamed at me, and you yes, you did.
No,
you're being
screamed.
disrespectful.
Rewind the tape,
You
you
wanted me
screamed.
here, and I'm
You
here.
screamed.
So what you
Rewind
gonna
the
do?
tape, that was good.
You wanted me here, so I'm
Replay.
here. You in
Right,
particular.
so be respectful.
Speak on
Be
your
respectful.
person.
What are
It's
you
not my
talking
fault.
about?
It's not my fault that y'all don't understand respect.
Yeah, no, when Blair tries to sound like hood, Blair will try to like pick up some like black like colloquialisms, and it's so, when I mean cringe. I know I do it, but I fucking live with black people, so like sorry, it's gonna happen, you know what I mean? But like you can tell that like Blair does not have any like black people like actually in his life, that he's like, it's like stuff that he's picked up from like Instagram or like TikTok, and it's like my mom trying to do it, and I'm like like my like eardrums like want to implode.
Referring to are transphobic, because let's be clear, of the isms that are in the military
we
that
live
a
in
lot of
America,
us face.
people are allowed
Excuse me,
to
I'm
be.
speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've
Let's be
interrupted
very
me
clear
hella
when it
times.
comes to when
Hella
it comes to
times.
isms.
Did the interrupter just
Again,
say
if you
use
are
your
black,
skin tone to say you couldn't interrupt her?
if you are black and
That's
trans
amazing.
and you want to go into the military, I am quite sure that my experience would not look the same as y'all's. And if we can't wake that up, then we're really being complicit.
They don't look at your race.
I don't think your
But you-
skin tone makes any difference.
Well, yes, it does.
No,
Well,
as
but
somebody-
it
no,
doesn't.
as somebody who's
But it
serving in the
doesn't.
military,
For you to
as
tell a
somebody
black
who-
person
no,
that is so
as somebody who's serving,
for you to
So why
tell
do
a
you have
person
to
of
put
color
black in
here,
front of it?
because this is my experience and this is my reality. First of all,
It has nothing
that
to
is
do
so
with your transness,
disrespectful
though.
to tell a person
I'm
of
gonna have an
color,
aneurysm.
a black person, how they should feel. How dare you sit up there
Okay,
and
well,
say
no.
this?
No one was telling you how to feel, sir. Bill Gates wanted to have one comment. How far are we in now? It's what, we're 30 minutes in. Bill Gates hasn't said anything, okay? And Bill Gates wanted to add something. And the second he tried to speak up, or she tried to speak up, you blasted her back in outer space, and basically like, it's like, bro, and now it's like you're trying to be like, oh, you're trying to tell me how to feel as a black woman, and it's like, no, you wouldn't fucking let Gates speak. That was the issue, and you pulled the card because you didn't want to hear from Gates, and we all thought it was bullshit. I can't take this anymore. The whole little bickering back and forth is so annoying. Like, we don't care. Let's get to the actual
I have,
issues.
like, a better understanding of kind of where you're coming from with
Oh,
it.
here's like one of the 4 times we'll hear from one of the females. Here we go. This one right here, this woman, the one with the glasses, is like creepy and has some really like gross takes. I'm sorry.
I feel like a lot of points make sense, and it's also an issue that is hard to get a definitive answer and agreement on.
Everybody doesn't have the same struggle, and that does include in the military. Some people in our community have to go through much more extremes.
Yes, I would love to see a Blaire White Jeffree Star debate, but I just don't want Jeffree Star to like bitch down and like be too like accommodating of Blaire. Like, I would like to see them go at it. That would be, and actually like full on go at it.
Others. And so for me, my question becomes, how are they being taken care of? Especially when a trans person comes out in the military. Yeah, we have these things enacted, but that doesn't mean
I do
that
not care about the military. We're starting over. I don't
17 or something.
I'm riding the waves of the cuff.
Yeah, it's just, this whole thing is like not interesting. Again, it's a male issue. This is another male issue because it's like most of the women are not, there are few women in the military. It's like whenever we talk about trans, it's really all about like what the men's issues are with trans. It's like men want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to be women in society, but they still want to be able to do all the things that they could do as a man. And why would you not let us? They really want to be like, well, we're still men. And it's like, no. No, you didn't want to beep, 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 beep. Like,
it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like,
oh my God, this is crazy. So they're talking about childhood transition.
Schools should include trans conversation in sex ed.
Join our Middle Ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
It's okay for minors to get top surgery.
Really?
You guys waited on that?
That's pretty vile.
I feel like the vibe is like I like, as someone who had top surgery. And
oh yeah, no, Blue Shirt is gorgeous and probably was a gorgeous woman. Same thing, like, what was it? Even though he's so cringe, and I hate that he took the name Marcus, because Marcus is my boyfriend's name. Marcus Dibb. Marcus Dibb was really cute as a girl too, and now looks like, ew, is not attractive anymore. And it's like, if you're after women, like, I would much rather have had the woman form of Marcus than the like fake off-brand, like Build-A-Male.
It's like, it's a very emotionally intense experience. I think in terms of like minors getting surgery, like, the reason why I'm not like no to that is because I feel like maybe someone's like 17 or something. I honestly feel like it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like, people are really different. I know for me, like, top surgery when I was like 16 would have been like so good, and it would have
Blaire White versus Godzilla. Elena.
Literally like saved my spinal cord from like binding all the time. That's why I'm like, yeah, like, I feel like in instances like it can make sense.
So I'm not a trans man, so I don't have the experience or whatnot, but I do think that it has to be done safely. There is a process when it comes.
I don't like that they only said top surgery. They just should have said, like, is trans medicalization okay for minors? I don't know why they made it just about top surgery.
To having these types of gender affirming surgeries, you know what I'm saying? Talking with your parents and then going to endocrinologists and going through therapy to make sure this is right for you. People have a choice to their autonomy. Now, I know that everybody does not, but those that do or whatnot should choose with the right medical education.
Yeah.
They should choose with safety and with full understanding of what is a benefit and what may not be a benefit.
I agree with a caveat that there does need to be some sort of process, which there is, by the way, in place.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes there's a slip through. Yes, things happen because, again, as I said earlier, this is a big world. But to, again, negate people the ability to walk through a door that you have walked through, I'm going to say this again, and then close it behind you, is a little bit of a slap in the face for anybody who's seeking transition.
So he's saying that any, like, for example, these D-sisters, these demedicalized D-sisters, or these medicalized D-sisters who have gone through these medical procedures and then are now advocating against them, being like, no, this is bad. They're like, that's not fair. You walk through that, now you're trying to close the door behind you. It's like, yeah, because maybe they understand how serious and dangerous and quackery this all is.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has experienced top surgery and also waited quite a bit of time, a lot of severe damage actually was created to my rib cage that my wife, who is half my size, actually has the same size rib cage in the back as mine. And these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8 years, and there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that unfortunately, if I had that surgery a lot earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis, while simultaneously the idea that, I get maybe under 16.
Okay, so is that because, because you were binding too much and you hurt yourself? Again, let's treat the root issue here, which is the mental illness that would causes you to do permanent harm to your body because you're so hyperfixated on having a special look. That's what all that this is. It's just some superficial look you're trying to achieve. And because you and your girlfriend or your wife or whatever want to LARP as a heterosexual couple because you're so uncomfortable with the fact that you're a lesbian woman. That's not like, now case closed. We need to fast track her to, getting her a double mastectomy, which is also just, even the fact that they've got to remember too, these are scarce medical resources. Okay, scarce medical resources, and we have scarce, and then we're trying to get them to pay for it out of taxpayers when, women can't even get, actually health preserving procedures. And health-saving procedures covered. Cancer patients are refinancing their homes, selling their houses to pay for their full cancer care. But we got to make clear that you can have your double mastectomy, taking up the time of a surgeon that are in short supply because, you don't like the fact that you're a lesbian and you want, to be able to call yourself husband and wife with your wife. Like, come on, stop it.
Top surgery would be something that would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable, but I also know that I was homeless at 16, paying my own rent, and left my home at 16 and had to live my life as an adult very early. So I was able to make those decisions for myself, but I think it's weird that others can't seem to see that I could make a medical decision for myself when I had to physically take care of myself. And I look at some of these younger kids and there's a sense of jealousy.
Once again, when you were a child, is what came first? Is it the mental illness? Is it the family stability? And then what? You guys are talking about how important these grassroots organizations and nonprofits are. Did they get a hold of you too, like they did Richard? And help you transition? Hold on for 1 second. Oh, Max? Shoot, hold on, guys. I think my dog might be in the street. Give me a second. All right. My bad. I realized I had left my door open. Sometimes I do that and my fence is not working. He's in. He's fine. Let's get back to it.
There and excitement for them at the same time because they now have access to memories and being in the space and being in a comfortable body that, I had a lot of isolation growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space.
Again, did you hear what she said? She said there's a little bit of jealousy. That's why a lot of these trans identifying people push so hard for childhood medicalization because they all think man, if I had only transitioned as a child, I wouldn't have had to do all these other interventions. And that's one of the biggest arguments that they use for why they push childhood medicalization. They try to say, oh, if we pubertally block these kids and give them cross-sex hormones early, we can prevent them from having all of these corrective surgeries because, the feminization won't happen and the masculinization won't happen. And then, they can start from a more of a blank slate. So this is, again, and I'm going to say it again, this is why the true trans narrative, people like Buck Angel and Blaire White, is so insidious, because there are these two examples of people who so-called pass. Okay, we can say that like they don't pass or whatever, but like at a quick glance you might not notice it. Okay, and we'll just say for argument's sake that they pass. These are passing trans people. Now I really do believe, like, once you talk to them in person, whatever. But okay, so they sit there and say, childhood medicalization is bad. But at the same time, the only way to really be trans is if you pass like us. And so, and then they sit there and they all get together and they all make fun of these non-passing trans people and be like, look how clowny and ridiculous. So you think when young people who are like, I want to be trans, I want to be like Blaire or Buck, I want to be one of the based ones, but I don't want to be one of these clowny ones that everyone's making fun of. Well, hello, they're walking billboards for childhood transition, because they're basically getting the feeling, well, wait, the worst thing in the world is if I allow male puberty to hit me and happen to me, and then I'll have to go and do all these other things. If I can just avoid any of that to begin with. Same thing with these parents, these trans housing by proxy parents who are, projecting this trans identity onto these kids. And for some reason, their own identity is wrapped up on the fact that they have a trans kid, that they're like a trans parent. And then again, it's this whole idea that if we can just do these early interventions now, then they'll get to be a part of the like passing trans club. They can sit with all the cool trans. Right? I'm sorry, it's do as I say, not as I do. You're a walking billboard for childhood transition. Both of you talk about how transition was the best thing you ever did and you love it and it's opened so many doors for you and you're so happy, but don't do it. But don't do it as a kid. No, they are advocating for childhood transition just by sitting here and promoting, look how great, my medicalization has worked, and like some people will never pass, and they'll sit there and they'll talk about these huge ogre men and the men in dresses that look like they're cross dressers, and they're basically just sending out the message that you better have a good transition or you're never ever going to get to be one of the elite special trans. And if only they just were honest and be like, there is no such thing as any elite special trans, we're all liars. This is all ridiculous. And if they stopped with the sham, stopped with the charade.
Male space, I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family, and my transition, my top surgery has done nothing but take physical pain off my body, especially with as large chested as I was.
You could have had a breast reduction, ma'am. A breast reduction. Hold on, I just want to still hear the part where she says, like, I feel jealousy about, like, hold on.
Would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable, but I also know that I was homeless at 16, paying my own rent, and left my... and these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8 years, and there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that, unfortunately, if I had that surgery a lot earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis, while simultaneously the idea that, I get maybe under 16 top surgery would be something that would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable. But I also know that I was homeless at 16, paying my own rent, and left my home at 16 and had to live my life as an adult very early. So I was able to make those decisions for myself, but I think it's weird that others can't seem to see that I could make a medical decision for myself when I had to physically take care of myself. And
so are you saying that it's a normal, reasonable thing to have 16-year-olds out living on the street that that's like a favorable thing that, you know, we should promote and allow, or that was a horrific thing that your parents honestly should be held in contempt, should be charged with child abandonment for. Because no, just because you were abandoned as a child and this horrific thing happened to you doesn't mean it's like some justification as to why we should allow you at 16. Well, you're a decade off from having a fully developed prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for long-term decision making and the understanding of consequence. So,
and I look at some of these younger kids, and there's a sense of jealousy there and excitement for them at the same time, because they now have access to memories and being in the space and being in a comfortable body that, you know, I had a lot of isolation growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space or a male space. I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family.
All right, I want to hear...
Big news. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to show you the fastest way to become a millionaire.
Let's see. Hold on. There was one...
More irresponsible, more, you know, dangerous than saying a child can consent to permanently removing a body.
I think it comes with like the size of your chest. So like I had a big chest. So like
implants should be able to get that either.
Growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space or a male space. I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family. And my transition, my top surgery.
All right, I want to keep going through this. I actually got to go, you guys, but I think I'm going to do even another live stream. I know that like we can like barely get through it because I like talk so much. Sorry. I'll try to like get through it more. How far? We're like 30 minutes. How long is this whole thing? All right, so maybe like 2 more live streams on this. I think it's the reason why, again, I think it's important. I really think it's important to debunk this myth that there are gender critical trans people and that, you know, there's some people who are truly trans and all this sort of stuff, and that there's any real, you know, valid difference between these like transgender like leftists and these so-called like libertarian transsexuals. There's not, and the only reason why Blaire goes on to be like so-called against childhood transition, because he got what he wanted, right? Like if he were this like big dude who didn't really pass, and you know, it would be a whole different story. But Blaire was already sort of set up physically to pass, and he's like an anomaly, right? He got everything he wanted. He's constantly being congratulated on his appearance and things like that. So yeah, so it's like what was I gonna say? Yeah, so, you know, again, people like Blaire and Sarah Hidgen and all them are happy to sacrifice certain aspects of the pro-trans rhetoric if it preserves the pro-trans rhetoric as a whole. And of course, the aspects that they're happy to sacrifice are things that no longer affect them. You know, even Sarah Hidgen being like pro, you know, like for the trans military ban, that's because he's no longer in the military and he doesn't care. It doesn't affect him anymore. You know, Blaire never needed childhood transition. And, you know, he also loves being a gay man. He loves using his penis. So, you know, he's totally happy that he was able to fully develop genitally. Which, you know, I agree it's like another one of the reasons why I think that and it's like I'm not condemning the fact that he's against childhood transition. That's what he should be. You know, I agree with him. I'm with him on that, but I just know that his reasons for being against it are just not the same. And it's like it's another one of the reasons why Dylan Mulvaney is so heinous in his advocacy for childhood transition, because it's like, how dare you? How dare you? You are a fully developed male with a fully developed functional penis. You've gotten to enjoy healthy adult sexuality, which you're now damaging your fertility and having to go like save your sperm and all this stuff. But you have sperm to save. You know, you talked about how you didn't know before if you wanted a family, but now as you're getting older, you realize it's something that's important to you. Yet you're advocating that we sacrifice that for children who are decades off from making those kinds of decisions. It's so particularly heinous. But all right, guys, I love you. Thanks for rocking with me. Notice how we didn't get striked. It's been way past 1 hour and 15 minutes. But see, again, every time I don't notify Blaire that I'm going to do these streams, every time I tag him, I end up getting copyrighted. Anytime I don't let Blaire know, then nothing. We get to talk forever. It's no big deal. Or if I'm talking about something that doesn't include one of the Jubilees that doesn't have Blaire in it. Is that coincidence? I think not. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for chilling. Really having fun with you guys. I love this community. I really do. I'm so grateful for my channel. If anybody, please make sure you hit the like button. It helps me with my algorithm. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Even if you are hate watching, go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, comment, like, share, all that good stuff. If you want to support me, it's Christmas time. If you want to support the channel so that I can continue making content and also be able to support my life, and you want to make a contribution, it would mean a lot. Hit me up on Venmo at aslightlytwistedfemale or CashApp at aslightlytwistedXX. Do not PayPal me because my PayPal is all messed up. I got to take that off. I'm in the process of getting my channel remonetized, so hopefully that'll go through. But yeah, if you want to support me, that would be wonderful. And yeah, definitely like the stream and comment and share. And I love you guys, and we'll finish this next time. I'll see you later. Merry Christmas.